Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the EKN Face2Face. My name's Rob Howden. Great to have you guys here with us on our EKN YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so right now. Hit that subscribe button and we'll be good to go. New show, and this is a cool one. Obviously, there's a lot of organization, a lot of racing going on the East Coast right now. There is a lot of strength on the East. If I look over the last 25 years I've been doing this, for a while, the West Coast was kind of the hot spot. East Coast has really dialed things in over the last number of years, and it is super strong. One of the programs being added to East Coast racing is the Stars Championship, which is really the only East Coast-based program that runs. Actually, there's two of them. It runs shifter carts and runs also the IAME single speed categories, that kind of a thing. And this program's been interesting. They've evolved quite a bit, especially the shifter side, to allow a lot of different shifter programs to come. There's obviously the Stars Championship, and of course the Gear Up F Series as well that runs all the different categories. Joining me here today is Joe Janowski. Those of you who've been around the sport for any period of time know the Janowski name. Joe's dad, Don Janowski, obviously one of the primary founders, really exploding the Supercarts USA program back in the 1990s. And we'll bring Joe on here right now. Let's get him in here. And Joe, how are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm good. What's up, Howden?
You know what? Go. It's pretty much the deal. I'm on a 3-weekend run. It's the month of May, as you know. So I was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway last week, SCUSA in Utah this week, and then back out for actually the Carbonite Classic. I'm not doing the 500 this year, but Carbonite Classic.
That's gonna be a great race, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Carbonite's awesome.
I'm excited. I love Carbonite Classic. Silver Crown cars, of course, our road Indy cars.
Yeah,
and midgets as well. Let's just jump into the Stars Championship. I think this is kind of a cool deal right now. You're back into it. First, let's do a Stars Championship overview. Then I'm going to ask you why you got back into being a promoter. Tell me about the Stars Championship right now. It's obviously the approach a little different to say the USPKS or Route 66 or wherever it may be. You guys have got, the 60cc cadet carts all the way to the different shifters. And the different thing is you have a bunch of different opportunities. You can run a rock, you can run IAME, you can run KZ when it comes to shifters. You guys have a pretty widespread platform.
Well, I think we have to go first and foremost. I mean, obviously I'm a huge shifter nut.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so for my entire life, I've pretty much, been a shifter guy. So they hold a special place, obviously, in my heart. And, one of the great things that I've seen over the last few years, was bringing the KZ in to run with the 175 has really seemed to help that whole program kind of blossom.
Agreed.
The rock stuff, I think, is it's a good package. It's reasonably priced. They're relatively bulletproof, and which is kind of hard to find. And so I like the mix, of those two engines because, the rock tends to attract a certain racer, and we have both like a pro division and masters. And then we also have the same thing with the KZ 175 stuff. So that's kind of the benchmark. I really kind of wanted to see that program sort of come back again. And I can tell you, this is a little off topic, but I have a tendency to bounce all over the place.
That's okay. I'll hang with you.
I'm sure nobody else is going to. They're going to shut me off in about 5 minutes. But, but I've been to a number of events this year already. And I was at the Buckeye Karting Challenge this past weekend. What a cool, great program that Scott Benton and Scott Smith run. If any of you are in the area and anywhere around Ohio, go check it out. I mean, they had 208 entries at
awesome.
G&J Cartway. So, and it felt like a great event. Those guys work so hard. But anyway, the point is, I go to events like that. I'm seeing shifters now. You go to Newcastle Motorsports Park, and I live in Indy, so that's kind of my sort of home base, let's call it. And the shifter class is really kind of coming back out there. And so, I'm seeing that sort of all over the place. But, to kind of pull back to where the Stars program came from, it was really, honestly, initially started with just kind of an epiphany moment I had while wallowing away in lockdown, kind of like everybody else was.
Yeah.
And it was that, it was an interesting time period. I don't know about you. You're always 100 miles an hour. For me, our business kind of stopped. at that point. I mean, tracks were shut down. There wasn't much happening.
Yep.
So, we started doing some esports stuff because we were all going a little bonkers, and I'm big into iRacing and esports. And so doing that started to create this thing in my head. And it was like, it would be really great to have this program that begins to reflect what I see happening in karting tracks, clubs, and programs all across the United States. That tends to be, although there's always going to be some variances as you go across the United States, but that tends to be 206, the KA program, and you can throw VLR into that.
Yep.
And then some element of shifter racing. And that was and even though I know that it's not quite mature yet, none of those are mature enough really at this point. I think KA is really starting to move, and I'm beginning to see a lot more traveling in 206 stuff. I think Greg's program with CKNA is a strong indicator that whole program is big enough now where there's a segment that is finally like, you know what, we want to go travel a little bit. I think he had what, like 300 down in Charlotte or something like that, which is great for his. That was great for his program. Love to see it. So and they're not even like an NKA or affiliated with us. I just like to see people that are working hard, putting on good shows, and people begin to show up, and it's always reflected in that, right? And support it and see good things happening in the sport. So that's really where the concept behind Stars really came from. And so sometimes you just sort of have to throw a bunch of up on the wall, and it's not always easy, and you got to see what sticks. But last year we had a banger of a first event,
right in the middle of COVID, right?
So you can call me a lot of things, but you can't call me a wimp. And I was really sitting there. We had our first race coming up, and we were jamming. I mean, this whole thing that evolved out of the esports, and I'm like, okay, we're going to kind of rebrand what we've been doing the previous year. And, so it was hauling the mail, and I'm on the phone with Mike Adams, good buddy of mine, and what a great facility Newcastle is. He's just been a huge help for us. And he's like, man, we're going to be okay for that date. We're going to be okay for the date. And I'm like, Mike, I don't know. He's like, we're going to be okay for the date. Well, we were okay for the date.
You did?
Unfortunately, kind of part of that was, at that time period, you really couldn't have any congregation of people being shown on social media and things like that.
Social media, I know it was tough.
So it was kind of like the big first awesome race that maybe kind of didn't happen, right? So, it was kind of like people were like, I hear there's a lot of people there, but I don't see anything. And
we can't tell anybody.
We can't tell anybody. So, and that was nobody's fault. That was the situation that we knew we were walking into, and I think it was more important to get us going, but a great race. I mean, obviously, I've got fantastic staff. So, I mean, all the people that come to work for our program are national level people, so that you can just kind of plug them in, let them go do their job, because they're all pretty amazing people. So the race was pretty much flawless, which I thought was a huge testament, not to me, but to all of them. Christian and Nikki, Alec Coates stepped up and took on a role of race director. Did a fantastic job and continues to improve race by race. That's not it. I can speak from experience. That is not an easy position to do.
No.
Whole lot of armchair quarterbacks, on that, picking at the race director all the time. But, but the reality of it is, did a great job. And then we had a lot of momentum still going, I think, even with not being able to really promote the volume that was there. And, so then the Brickyard had to change its date, and, that's a big race around here. And so, I wanted to make sure that we weren't on top of it. It created a little bit of a scheduling snafu for us. So the next race at MCC, Sean Bailiff's place, beautiful facility. If you guys have never been there, travel and get there and see it. I mean, it's a country club. I mean, it was legitimately a country club at one point. So that the entries were a bit lower there. We rebounded pretty nicely at Pitt. And then, so this year we fired up at GoPro and just had a great event.
We pause our face-to-face broadcast for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. Meticulously engineered and manufactured in Japan, DID Genuine Parts are the world's #1 original parts supplier for Japanese and European motorcycle manufacturers. A rich racing tradition where results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this SDH pin technology, which leads to longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. If you're searching for a program to elevate you in the motorsports ladder, Crosslink Competition is your next step. Crosslink Competition provides arrive and drive programs that include driver coaching, data analysis, and an engine rental program for all major events in the 2021 season. Team Crosslink is scheduled to compete at the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, Rock Cup USA, and the United States Pro Kart Series events, along with regional and local programs from their home base in Texas. Crosslink Competition is a full retail shop for the Xpree chassis and OTK kart parts. Many new and used packages are available right now through their Dallas headquarters. For drivers interested in making the jump from karting to cars, Crosslink provides a streamlined opportunity for you. Team Crosslink and Kiwi Motorsports is a championship-winning operation in the F4 United States Championship program, providing the perfect transition within the same. Drivers looking to compete with the elite level karting program or pick up gently used team equipment are asked to call 214-432-4413. Be sure to follow them on all social media platforms at Team Crosslink. Welcome back to Face2Face on the EKN Radio Network. So give us before you do, give us the whole the cool factor is you talking about the CKNA races and seeing shifters grow and seeing the K100 program develop and talk about rock. Just give us a quick, for those who don't know about the Stars Championship, give us a rundown of the categories that you do run, because it's a wide spectrum lineup of classes.
It is a pretty wide spectrum, and I probably have one or two more, let's call them run groups, than I would prefer. Mm-hmm. But I think, sometimes you have to sort of let some things grow and see kind of how they move. Before I get into that, Rob, and if I get too far off track, bring me back.
I'll do that.
But I really don't, I think the national market is being pretty well served. You've got SCUSA and USPKS. They're serving the big rigs with the X30 kind of programs. X30 in our program has never really worked all that well. Okay. So that's why, I still have them, but it's really, I think a lot of guys use them to get some extra track time. So really the focus, is mostly on mini and micro. When I first started directing the SCUSA stuff, I was kind of like, why are these guys here? These are national events. And then you get to the point where you really see how talented these kids are. And it's great to see them in the micros, and as they learn and progress and get faster and their racecraft improves and gets better.
It's good stuff.
And their face when they get their first legitimate penalty, and like the dad is like, but he's learning. And I'm like, well, this is how they learn, And 100%. So it's so many promoters like, oh, I don't, the junior stuff scares me. And I think if you can put up with a little bit of, silly stuff here and there, bunch of great kids. So we have that program. We've got the 206 senior, we call them, all of our key pro classes are followed by stars. So we have 206 stars. Yeah. We've got the gamut of KA. So we have junior, senior, and masters. We've got X30 senior and X30 masters, and then we have 4 shifter classes. Yeah. So we've got KZ stars, which includes the 175. And we allow the new updates for the 175. I think the 175 is a brute. I really would like to see it go. So we're going to continue to support that as long as the IAME group continues to do so. and we have that both in pro, basically in masters, and then we have rock, and we have rock stars, which is kind of funny to me, and then we've got rock masters. So, all those classes are beginning to thicken sort of as we go. So, last year 206 could be kind of hit or miss. This year, we've got a lot of guys that are committed to run the 206 stuff. The K stuff, super strong. I even had to put an entry cap because I was worried. I'm pretty sure at some point we're probably going to hit like some kind of an entry cap with KA.
Wow. Okay.
The shifter numbers, we're getting a lot more inquiries. You can almost kind of gauge sort of what an event's going to look like or what your year might look like just by the number of emails and the number of Facebook messages and the number of things we have coming in. And so, interest in the shifter stuff is really high. I know sales on shifter stuff is pretty good right now. So I'm excited to see that. So, that's kind of the essence of what, we're built on still is, it's, more or less kind of a KA, something of a 206. I don't know that it's ever going to expand beyond the single class in 206, but I think if I can get the very best 206 guys, if I can get 25 of the best 206 guys in the United States, boy, what a great race. And actually,
then you're happy. Yeah.
I mean, dude, it was a stunner in GoPro. 3 or 4 guys coming to the line. Ian Quinn won it, but barely. And they all came across, and it was a heck of a race to watch. KA was also really good. So, let
me comment on the shifter thing, because I think we got to go back, and I mentioned this in the intro a little bit. The Janowski family, obviously, you go back and look at the whole SCUSA program, Ken Getchell in Florida, and then Don, and then Jim Murley with Don building into what it was. It's almost like, the shifter car stuff is in your DNA to a certain extent, right? It's like literally attached to your name. And I talked about the F Series program in the Northeast with Mark Oldoffer, does a great job up there with his program.
Sure.
But SCUSA and the Great Lakes Pro Series, that back in the 90s got started in the area where you are right now, right? In that Indiana kind of Ohio area. And I think that there hasn't been that series. That's why when you came in, I was like, okay, I was wondering where the Stars Championship is going to fit in. Joe wants to do this program, but USBKS strictly single speed, Route 66 single speed. They've added the 206. You're kind of that I want to say Midwest Indiana, like you had, like the family has been for over 25 years. It's where shifter guys can still run. It could be the Janowski Championship to a certain extent if you give it ode to your dad, but it's a place for shifter car drivers to have a place to go racing other than club level.
Well, it's people ask me a lot, like, well, where do you, and actually, this isn't one of those lead-in kind of things. Like, I literally get asked this a lot, like, where are you trying to position Stars?
100%. Yeah.
And the answer is always, I'm producing an event that I would want to go race. And wherever it ends up positioning itself, that's where it ends up. If you see this as a national grade, if you see it as a regional grade, if you see however you see it, it really doesn't matter. When you show up at our event, it's professional, it's well branded. Obviously our media presence is pretty impactful. And so I really just want to create something. It's almost a lot like, Rob, to be honest with you, it feels a lot like the first round of SCUSA. So like before it was SCUSA, back when it was Supercars USA.
Yep.
And everybody is like, what is this? And what are you trying to be? We're like, we're trying to race shifter carts, man.
That's it.
And it gave us a cool opportunity, before Jim came in and before, some of our infamous meetings with Jim in his basement, plied with beer and, cool ideas, but that started right from the beginning. It was like, well, how could we do things different? Or how could we make this a really cool race? Or what could we do? That's where podiums came from. It's like people take podiums for granted. Well, before we started doing them, nobody did podiums.
Yeah.
And it was that fun being able to be like, this is what we want to do, or that's what we want to do. And that's really probably, you can call it something of, my own need for that kind of creative expression. Getting back into promoting, after the first, foray,
yeah.
and really, I don't know. We talked about that a little bit before the show, and you mentioned it, and I didn't know if it would come up or not tonight. But that left me pretty scarred, man. And because I had lived through, I had lived through the creation and the entire movement of Supercarts USA that turned into SCUSA, right? And went through all the highs and the lows and all that just super positive energy, that time period where like you could just, I don't know, you could say like, hey guys, we're going to race bread baskets. And everybody had been like, cool, bread baskets are the greatest thing.
Let's do it.
And it was a lot of fun. And then, I stepped out and we stepped away. And honestly, we were just too busy, and SCUSA was really getting too big, and so Jim kind of took it over. And then when I came back in, it just ended up being a lot worse than what I thought, and I was honestly radically unprepared for that, both just on a daily basis and I think even mentally. I mean, it was really kind of a shocking experience that I found myself in.
It's a tough time for sure.
I think I told you once, it was like unwittingly jumping into a blender and hitting puree. And that's kind of what it felt like. I remember telling my now ex-wife, but I remember telling her, if I ever say I want to promote again, you need to drag me out back and beat me with whatever's around, shoot me with a shotgun, doesn't matter. You need to get that out of my system. But I think at the end of the day, at that point, and one thing that was challenging too was I was still a racer, and I mean a racer, which I always have been. And that's always, I think, kind of where some of that creativity and some of my drive comes from, is just, I'm a competitor. I just enjoy, I don't necessarily enjoy some parts of racing. I'm a terrible mechanic, but I love the battles. I love the racecraft. I love getting out and throwing down. And hey, if I'm throwing down for 7th, then that's what I'm throwing down.
Whatever it is, right?
But and so that was a challenge at that time period, and that's something I really don't have right now. And so, so today, this was an opportunity to push the NKA a little bit to its next level. A lot of the things that I'm developing in Stars, and by the way, just kind of as an aside, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy sitting around and coming up with better ways to do things or different ways to do things. I enjoy inviting NKA facilities or series, to our events, and I'll take them around and I'll spend a couple hours with them and show them how we do registration or how we do race control or how we do whatever, e-waivers or my registration process or how we use a program like Discord to make communication during an event.
We pause our face-to-face broadcast for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. Looking for that extra edge? Comet Racing Engines is your answer. The engine service program from Comet Kart Sales has been winning from coast to coast at all levels and different forms of the sport. Lead engine builders Mark Harrison and Gary Lawson have decades of karting experience, providing racers the power to reach the top step of the podium. Comet Racing Engines continually perform track and dyno tests to provide their customers with the cutting edge in engine performance. Comet specializes in Yamaha KT100, IAME Swift, IAME X30, IAME Leopard, and Rock engines. Trackside and customer support are the cornerstones of the Comet Racing Engines business, ensuring each and every customer receives personal attention and the help they need to achieve the best results. Engine rentals are available at all the events that Comet attends in 2018, including WKA, SCUSA, USPKS, and the Route 66 Sprint Series. Contact the Comet team today at cometkartsales.com or by calling 317-462-3413. If you're looking to step up your engine program, send it to Comet Racing Engines. The Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is where out-of-the-box ease and outstanding consistency meet to create legendary races. Briggs & Stratton's history in motorsports dates back to when the first engines came off the assembly line in the early 1900s. Their focus on the grassroots level continues to help build generations of racers. Since 2008, the Briggs & Stratton 206 has gained a following that has the engine powering the largest fields in North American karting today. From the club level and track programs to traveling regional series and national events, Briggs & Stratton competition provides the most exciting racing in the sport. Engineered and hand-built exclusively for racing, every Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is power tested and serialized before it goes in the box. Karters can take that engine straight from the box to their kart and be on the podium at the end of race day. Be sure to follow Briggs & Stratton Racing on Facebook and through @RaceBriggs on Instagram. To learn more about the 206 engine or to find the North American dealer near you, head to briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing, what powers you? Welcome back to Face2Face on the EKN Radio Network.
Seamless.
So let's use that really quickly. Give us a quick, because you're bringing NKA up, and I don't think everybody knows what the NKA is, the National Karting Alliance. That's what's
best kept secret.
That's what's kept you in the sport, right? From the day that you decided that you were done with SCUSA and you were going to sell it to Tom and Patty and move on to you were still, your dad ran and your mom ran and NKA, right? National Karting Alliance. Give us just a little synopsis of what that is and what it continues to be.
Okay, so the 50,000 foot version of NKA is effectively what we are is we're very similar to like a WKA. The one thing that NKA doesn't do is it doesn't produce its own events, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And historically, now that's changing this year, but we provide a lot of different resources for tracks and series, both in dirt. So dirt, we provide a complete set of rules. We do obviously the insurance and pit pass programs for a lot of events. Most people that might watch this have more than likely had an NK band on their arm.
I was just going to say they've worn NK before.
They've had it, baby. They just didn't know what it was.
That's right.
I don't know. After this, maybe they're going to start burning their wristbands. But
I doubt it.
But that's been something that started in the mid '80s with my dad, and when I graduated college. Actually, when I was in high school, I was working in it. And then, and as it grew and more facilities came in, so that's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. But it's never been, the NK is kind of this thing that like does this really nice, great thing for racetracks and clubs and series. But, we really don't promote it externally all that much.
It's like the support system behind some stuff that nobody knows about, right? Like
yes,
your computer programs, whatever it may be. There's
That's
all this,
a great way.
There's all this admin behind the face of a website that you don't even get to see, but it's there providing a lot of the structure that you need.
Yeah, so like almost like the architecture behind it. Yeah. And so like like this year, I'm in the middle of beta testing a big e-waiver and registration program. It's going to be free to all NKA tracks. So that's going to go into more next phase, probably in 2022. But I'm working on constantly developing things to help, NK tracks and then by default, just to help the sport.
Yeah.
Anybody in the sport, if this stuff keeps happening and I'm able to help it trickle down through, then our events get better. And when the events get better, people will stay in the sport longer and they're going to enjoy doing things in our sport longer. And that's kind of the sort of, ulterior motive that I have. Although you can't track that. I mean, it's really hard to say, how long or whether it makes a huge effect or no effect at all. But, I enjoy it. So, that's really, so like Stars allows me to, and actually back in the day, SCUSA kind of did the same thing that I'm doing with the Stars Championship now. And it allowed there to be this sort of external arm of the NKA that would go out and do really cool stuff. And so that was kind of that creative outlet, back then. And now it's this but I'm, what we didn't do with Supercarts USA was, we didn't really apply that back to all of our customers back then in the NKA. And so now I'm changing that. So like, I already brought up the BKC guys. Mm-hmm. They've been visiting a number of different events. Last year, those guys are really dedicated to making their program good. They came down to GoPro. We spent a couple hours going over all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of one of the things, and they're a good example because I already brought them up, but I've had others. I'll be doing it again at Newcastle. So if any NKA tracks or series are out there and want to come to Newcastle, just let us know. And that's part of the fun, is to help kind of spread the things that we're developing, and some of it may not be really all that applicable down into a club level stuff. Just because of how a national-ish program kind of works, but something, that they're going to be able to grab something and take it home and make their club race or their local race a little bit better.
So let's double down then on the Stars Championship. Let's talk about 2021 right now. You got your first event out of the gates down at GoPro. Strong numbers and some great racing, as you said.
Oh, it was fantastic. There was great numbers, and actually ended up being, I was super happy. I really don't have massive expectations. I don't, I'm not sitting here going, gosh, if I don't have, 200 some odd entries, oh, woe is me.
Yeah.
I'm in a building phase, and so, I'm investing heavily into what we're doing. So I'm bringing more staff in. I'm, making sure that the user experience, the people that come to the event, move seamlessly through it and have a good time when they're doing it. I expect to bump in entries for Newcastle. That one, our entries are already in front of where we were at for GoPro at the same time period now.
And that's June
11, 12, 13,
11,
right?
12, 13th, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think obviously, like, I still, so I'm not bright enough to stay out of the seat. So I actually got back into racing last year. And so Newcastle's kind of my home track. And
are you saying you're going to race?
Well, not my own thing. No, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, I can't imagine what would happen if you try and race your own thing.
That's true. You probably should stay where you are.
I'd bump some guy, and the next thing you know, I'm the worst thing since sliced bread.
But you did race the Buckeye race, right?
I did race the Buckeye race. Yeah.
Camden. I heard you finished second.
I did. Word travels fast. Yeah, I did. And there was what a great opportunity. So there was a guy named Doug Cook, and I had never met or raced against Doug, but I'll tell you what was crazy. Randy Kugler was doing the announcing.
Yep.
Okay. And old name in the sport,
Yep.
On
the track too, right?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, that's where
started that track, didn't he?
He was very involved in. I know that's where WK was started.
Yeah.
Was it G&J? Yeah. And so, Randy's there doing the announcing, and he was even telling me, he's like, do you remember Doug Cook? And I'm like, only by name, a little older than me. But I remember the guy being a bad unit. Right. Yeah. And so here he is in my class, and I'm like, geez, okay, this is going to be interesting. And I hadn't really raced this year yet. So, get out there, had one hell of a battle with that guy.
That's awesome.
He positioned me, and I got he snookered me with some lappers, and fully deserved because he kicked my butt. But nice. Man, we went back and forth. Randy Kruger was calling a great race, and just having a lot of fun. So that was a great time. I mean, I haven't had that much fun at a kart race myself in quite a while. So that was pretty neat. How excited
are you you obviously, in the middle of COVID there when everybody was trying to figure out how to get races done, under the radar to a certain extent, the health unit at Newcastle was okay to go racing. Other places you couldn't do it. But right. Then you fast forward to where we are now. You got to be excited going from that race where it was under the radar to you have a good run at GoPro, so you got good momentum, and now you're coming back to essentially the home of the series, back to Newcastle with momentum and with full social media and everything you can do to promote what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it bodes really well. Like we were talking about before. Just COVID being COVID, it kind of sort of sucks the air out. Yeah. And so now we don't have to face that. And I think, I was even talking to Christian and some of the other folks. Christian Marsh, by the way, who's I don't even know what his title is. I always call him something stupid, so I won't do that now. But so let's call him Director of Brand Development or whatever you want to call him. But
that sounds good. I like that. It's a good name.
Kind of my right-handish guy, and I was like, man, can you imagine what it would have been like, if we didn't have to fight COVID? And he's like, to be honest with you, he goes, I'm not even sure we would have this thing if it wasn't for COVID. And he's kind of right. It was the COVID situation that really pushed us into esports, which, created this kind of opportunity that I just want, like I said, it was just like, boom, like, okay, I got to do this.
And
So
a lot of off-season branding, hardcore branding with the stars, right at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was full on, and it's remained full on. And I'm committed to that kind of a program. So, it's, look, if you come to one of our events, my dad.
We pause our face-to-face broadcast for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs are available in 2021 for the USPKS and the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour and Super Nationals, with full product sales and service and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private, one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. Trinity Karting Group is also your Midwest home for Tony Kart and IAME, and we're your source for MG and Avinco tires in the region. Tony Kart quality cannot be beat, so call us today to put you in a new chassis for your next event. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group has a long history in the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. It all started in 1994 when former successful kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Fast forward 20 years and Parolin's passion for the sport led to the company rejoining international competitions as a factory team in WSK and CIK FIA races, with the aim of enhancing the research and development process, immediately achieving notable results around Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming the CIK FIA Asia Pacific KZ champion in the same year. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory team at all of the major SuperKarts USA and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2021 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior classes, and the 28mm mini kart for the cadet classes. Parolin has been winning races all over the world, and it's on top of the podium in the USA as well, with drivers like Kai Sorensen, Mateus Arjuela, and Alessandro De Tullio. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. Welcome back to Face2Face on the EKN Radio Network.
So I'm going to do a story from way back, but there way back before the interwebs, before anybody. What was that vice president's name that invented the internet?
Al Gore.
Al Gore, thank you. The Canadian reminds me of Al Gore. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a political science major, but yeah, I can't remember a vice president's name. That's anyway, right. Before Al invented the internet, we had papers in the sport. Do you remember? Gosh, I think it was Dave Larson had a paper. Do you remember that one?
There was Inside Track.
It was Inside Track. You're right. Track, yes. Yeah. And National Kart News. Yeah. Maybe that. Yeah. And then National Kart News too would do some stuff. And so, my dad's whole thing with shifters at the beginning is he wanted like a world of outlaws, right? He was always like, I want 25 awesome guys in shifter karts. Yeah. And we take them around to different events, right? Yeah. And so one of his mantras was make them famous. I want to make these guys famous. Yep. And so we would go to the race, come home, and my mom and I would sit down and we would write a story, and we used a pen name, and I can't remember what the pen, and to be fair, my mom did 99% of it.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that. That's good.
We would use a pen name, and then The funny part is when they started getting calls about, it was Eddie something. And I can't remember what the last name was, but it was Eddie something. And so they started getting phone calls because other people wanted to hire this Eddie guy to come out and start covering the races. So, but anyway, but that was kind of a mantra my dad always had. And so, when I was coming out for this, and putting this all together, obviously bringing someone in like Christian who can take these concepts and these visual concepts and sort of, turn them into something tangible that, and I've always told them, like, from day one, it's like our goal, is to make them famous, get them out there. They're coming to support our program. And this is the least we can do, is to put, to get those people some exposure and show them that, we appreciate, the fact that they even think about showing up. But, I think right now, Rob, like, it's just, sometimes you can feel a good vibe, and you can't really explain it. And I can't necessarily give you the data on it. And I can't, go down a Gantt or a chart and say, like, this is where we're at. But the vibe right now feels good.
It's the feel.
People are enjoying the races. When we leave, there's not a bunch of, I'm sure, a couple of guys will be tweaked because it's racing. But generally speaking, we get a lot of emails back going, hey, look, didn't know what I was coming into, thought I would try it out. I heard some good things, and wow, what a great time.
That's awesome. I like that.
So, it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun coming up with all of it. You really have to come up with everything. So that's been a lot of fun, and wouldn't trade it for the world. And I'm enjoying myself. And at some point, by the way, you and I are going to need to square off in a 206 race now.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So now that I'm back in the seat, it's time to have some fun.
I haven't raced yet either. Just last year at the Brickyard, I need to get back out. Let me pick up the website here. It's starschampionshipseries.com.
Yep.
Round number 2, June 11 to 13, Newcastle. Round 3, July 23rd to 25th. You mentioned going to the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Sean Bailiff and family continue to improve that track, and you'll wrap things up October 8th to the 10th at Pittsburgh International. That's the 4 races you guys have locked in for this year.
Yeah, and I'm super stoked about Pitt as well. Ended up putting them on the schedule last year, and they were super amenable because, like, anybody who wasn't paying attention, if you didn't realize this last year, you weren't paying attention. We were trying to shove like a full year of racing into like a few months.
That's it.
And everybody's trying to stay off of everybody. And I think finally everybody's like, screw it, dude. Like, we have to put it somewhere. We're going to do this. And so Pitt was super amenable. I think I moved that event probably 3 different times.
Wow. Okay.
Trying to stay off of people and be the good guy. And, what a cool track. I'd only raced there one time, and it was like back right after it was first built. Have you ever been there?
It's a track I've never been to. Tim Blaney, who used to work for the magazine's been there. Cole's been there. It's every time that there was a chance for me to go there, I had to go somewhere else.
It's such a cool circuit. And then while we're there on Sunday, they've got this drift competition happening behind us. And so all day, man, you've got these souped up, whatever they are, and these guys are full sideways, smoke rolling off of it. I'm like, dude, this is awesome.
That's right?
It's like you're just getting engines from one side and engines from the other. But the group at Pitt, super fantastic people to work with, and we're involved with their program as well and trying to get their local program kind of streamlined and up and running, and so really excited about that too. So lots of good things coming down the road. We've invested in a couple new things. We're going to launch at Newcastle here in roughly a month. I'm excited about that, and just keep going. Just keep producing good events, produce good events, and have people enjoy themselves and leave and plan to come back. So.
Well, the COVID shutdown really hurt a lot of other different programs, not so much, different sports. Karting actually seems like it came through pretty well. The industry was pretty strong, and to have dedicated people like yourself and the other organizations really focused on customer service and putting together a race, like you said, that people want to come to. That's the bottom line, right? So kudos to that. We wish you the best of luck. Obviously, for those of you who've never run a Stars race, June 11th, 12th, 13th, Newcastle Motorsports Park. It's always a track you want to go to. And I think you mentioned as well your race at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Rave reviews I'm hearing from that track as well. Of course, as I said, Sean and the family down there doing a lot of work there. So, and then to cap off the season, as you said, it's the week after the Cup Karts North America Grand National. So if you feel like doing more, head to Pitt, right?
Well, you know why it's on that weekend, Rob?
You moved it?
I moved
No.
it because I want to race the.
Because
I'm
you
going to
want to
race
race.
the CKNA deal. So,
Well,
yeah.
listen, see, that could have been our head-to-head in the Legends class. No, you're not 50 yet, are you? No.
No, I'm 48.
I was going to run the Legends class, but because Toronto IndyCar got canceled, now Road Indy's on top of that weekend at Mid-Ohio. So again,
Oh,
I missed CKNA for the second straight year, and I'm pissed. I'm
no, it's just
pissed.
it's neat, man. I love stuff. I love things like the deal Greg has going on,
Oh,
especially
it's
that
awesome.
event, because
Yeah.
it's like this organic thing, right? It's not like,
Oh, dude,
it's
listen, you mentioned the SCUSA. I've said this before when I ran the race 2 years ago, and it felt to me like I was at one of the first Super Nationals when
Mhm.
everybody around was realizing that this was something that was really, really cool and was going to keep growing. Like you felt
Yeah.
like you were at the genesis of something awesome,
I don't
right?
know. I'm going to send Greg an invoice or something like that, but it's like, they're talking about, uh, you know, 400 plus, easily up into the 400s. And, I might have to actually not race and just help the guy because I know what that's like.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, man, you're going to have to get ready, buddy, because that's going to be a whole new level of race. But,
Pretty amazing stuff.
I've never been able to do it. I was going to do it last year and ended up not being able to. I was selling a house and moving, and it just
Yeah.
didn't quite work out. So, this year, I got a new go-kart and I'm ready to go, man.
I was so looking forward to it, but it'll be 2022. Hopefully things will calm down. Be back in 2022. Otherwise, but listen, good luck in the next race. Thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to get you on here, talk about the Stars Championship. You're doing great things.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And anytime, buddy, anytime at all.
We talk about the ebbs and flows of careers and exciting things and trying to make people famous. Joe Janowski was the guy that got me to start Shifter Card Illustrated magazine. I remember that cover. I remember that. You should start a magazine.
Where were we sitting? We were sitting in some restaurant bar somewhere, weren't we?
I want to say we were. I want to say that we were at Norway and we were like Morris, Illinois, or something like that at the hotel bar.
Sounds probably pretty accurate.
After that, yeah,
some janky motel bar.
Exactly right. All right, Joe. We're done. Thanks for joining, buddy. Man. We'll drop Joe into the back. He can hang out in the studio, and I'll talk to him afterwards. Let me get rid of this. Let me put this over here like this. There we go. Folks, Joe Janowski, again, the Janowski family, again, legendary in the sport of karting, especially shifter kart racing, gearbox racing in the U.S. They really were the ones that turned it in from being this kind of an outlaw guys racing everywhere, brought it together, and eventually started the Superkart USA Promoto Tour in 1998, and then, of course, the SCUSA Super Nationals as well. But Joe's got something cool going on. The Stars Championship, trying to just let it evolve and fit in wherever it's going to be on the East Coast. But the bottom line is 206 KA, the 125 liquid cooled, and then, of course, the gearbox categories as well. Doing a lot of great things. And again, June 11, 12, 13, their next event. If you want to try something new, head on out to Newcastle Motorsports Park. We do appreciate everyone tuning in here to this edition of Face to Face. Let me get the right audio or the right video here. Take care, guys. Book it.